Oracle Belle, and welcome back to another episode of the Molly McIntyre Project. This is Molly, obviously, this is Lucky, and this is Emily. And today we are going to be starting in on Molly Learns a Lesson outfit, which she is wearing right here. So even though usually like the meat outfit is like the iconic outfit of the character, Molly, it's not really, it doesn't really go that way for her. For Molly, her Learns a Lesson outfit appears more than her meat outfit. So, like on the cover of this collection of stories, it's her Learns a Lesson outfit. If you open up the books, any of the books, and you look at what she's wearing in her portrait, that's her Learns a Lesson outfit. If you look at several of the books, her Learns a Lesson outfit makes more of an appearance than her meat outfit, which I just think is really interesting. And so does Lucky. So this video is going to be a two-parter. So today, part one, we are going to be making the blouse that goes under the jumper, and then next week we will be making the jumper. Sounds good, Lucky? Good, good, good.
For this project, I use Simplicity Pattern 8736, titled 1940s Vintage Blouses. There are 4 options for this pattern, and not one exactly encapsulated Molly's blouse, because as you can see, it has the cute Peter Pan collar, it has the nice long floofy sleeves, some nice cuffs at the end. So I combined pattern options A and pattern option B to get the look that I wanted. This is the first time that I'm using this pattern, so I needed to cut it out, which is always step 1. Also, Lucky has really been enjoying this new to us antique Victorian chair that we got as a thrift store find for just 50 bucks. I know, it was a steal, and I really love it. It now lives in the corner of my sewing room. I always cut out the largest pattern size and then just fold down to the size that I need. That way I can use this pattern for different people, or my needs and sizes may change, and it just gives me more options. So as you can see here, I'm just folding down the pattern. Sometimes when there's a curve in the pattern, I have to give it a few snips so that it'll lay right, but I can always just tape it back up later if I need to. For the fabric of this project, I use a thrifted white cotton bed sheet, which is one of my favorite things to use for projects, but actually I'm starting to run out of them. So I need to go and thrift some more because I'm running out. So I'm pretty confident that these are darts. I actually had to go look it up because these markings for the darts are different than any ones I've ever seen before. So I went to the internet, and it says that darts are folds sewn into fabric to take in ease and provide shape to a garment, especially for a woman's bust. These markings do all of that. Therefore, I do believe they are darts, even if they are essentially upside down to what I am used to looking at for darts. And the way that they're marked makes me think that this is a vintage styling of dart marks, and that this pattern therefore is a true reprint of the original, because Simplicity sometimes does that. Now I use a blue fabric marker to highlight the dots on the darts, and then I pin them together, and don't worry, this marker will come out with water. I then stitch down the darts using my sewing machine and press them flat with my iron. Next, I gathered the top of the shoulder on the front pieces of the bodice. I had my sewing machine on the lowest tension setting, and then just stitched a line across the top of the shoulder seam, or where the shoulder seam will be. I then pulled the thread to gather the top of the shoulder. While this is an element that was not originally included in the Molly Learns a Lesson outfit for her blouse, I really like it, and I think it'll give my outfit a little bit more flair, a little bit of a difference that is, of course, a little bit more womanly, because this blouse is very much shaped for a lady who has some curves. So I really like the gathering of the shoulder that creates a blousey bust, but then it has a very nipped in waist, which we just did all of those darts for. So these elements will really make this blouse a grown-up version of Molly's outfit. And of course, once I had the front of the bodice gathered and ready to go, I attached the front of the bodice to the back two pieces and then sewed them down on my sewing machine. Also, it is officially hot cocoa season, and I have definitely been enjoying some hot cocoa while I'm sewing. My sewing room is just such a cozy, happy place, and hot chocolate is just such a cozy, happy drink. They go perfectly together, and my husband is amazing, and he usually makes me my nightly cup of hot cocoa and always includes a marshmallow.
All right, so I have the body of the blouse done, and I'm really liking it so far. I really like how it comes in so much here. It shows off the waist, you know, back center finished at least. I don't have the buttons on it yet, so we're just kind of coasting here, but this will give you a little bit of an idea of how it should look, and give me a little bit of an idea of how it should look. It should kind of look like this. I really like the gathers on the shoulder and how blousey it is up top, and then it comes in and it's nice and fitted, and it'll be, you know, it would probably be a tucked in blouse with pants or a skirt. So yeah, I'm really liking it. I got the cuffs and the collars done as well. So now we just have to attach them. So let me show you how I made this.
On her blouse, Molly has this delightful trim on her collar and on her cuffs. I think that it is a type of tatted lace, which is absolutely beautiful. I went into my bin of lace trim and lace, well, everything, to see if I had any that resembled it closely enough, and I found this little lace trim that I think works pretty well. It's not tatted lace, but it does have the same type of scalloped pattern, which makes it visually similar. So I went with it. I then cut out the interfacing that I would need for the collar and for the cuffs, and I attached it to the fabric using my iron, as it was iron-on interfacing, which transfers with heat. I then pinned the cuffs together with the trim on the inside so that when I turned the cuffs right side out, the trim would be peeking out on the edge of my cuff and have little nice scalloped edges on it, just like Molly's. So once I pinned it, I then took it to my sewing machine and stitched it down. I did one nice long stitch on the long side, opened it up, pressed it. It looked good, so then I went ahead and I sewed the sides, and then I also did the same exact thing with the collar. So I went ahead and I pinned the lace and folded it, kind of sandwiched it between the collar, pinned it down, and then I took it to my sewing machine and did one nice big long stitch there. Once I sewed it down, I then of course took it to my ironing board and pressed it flat. This looks like I did it super easy on the video, but there were a few places that I had to go back, unpick, seam rip, and then redo, as some of the trim moved a little bit and it wasn't even all the way around, so I had to fiddle with that just a little bit. I then needed to do some finishing procedures on the back of the blouse. I did a small, tiny hem right along the back seam where I folded it over the interfacing that I had ironed on, and then stitched that down with my machine. And then I went back, trim threads, and then folded over the section that had the interfacing on it and stitched it down to the back of the blouse. This creates the foundation where I will be sewing the buttonholes and the buttons on. So I wanted to make sure it looked really nice. This year I have really been focusing on finishing my garments nicely, especially the vintage pieces like this, because I want to make sure that these withstand the test of time and are in my closet for a really long time. Next, it was time to attach the collar. Originally, the pattern called for facings, which I almost used and had every intention to use until I held them up to the blouse, and it just didn't seem like they were gonna fit, and I don't really like facings. I think they're a little finicky. So I decided, instead of using a facing to finish this off, I just used some bias tape. I used this when, oh, whoops, I haven't showed you how I made my 1930s dress yet. That will be coming out later, but I made a 1930s dress also based off an American Girl doll, so that'll be lots of fun. But I learned it in that pattern, and that was a vintage reprint pattern, so I know that they had done that in the 30s, so I just decided to use it for my 40s pattern as well. And I really like how the bias tape just finishes off the neckline. I think it's just so nice and clean. So I stitched that down, and then I hand finished the bias tape and kind of just secured it to the bottom of the neck, hiding the seams. It's great. Next up were the sleeves. The sleeves were a little odd because they had a little swoopy down on the back side, so it has a nice poof at the cuff, but it was just a little weird to work with. But I went ahead and I stitched the sleeves closed. We made a nice big tube of fabric, and then of course they are giant poofy sleeves. That means they need to be gathered. So I went ahead, set the gathering stitch on my machine, stitched all the way around the shoulder where it's marked and also around the cuff. Pulled those threads, gathered them, and then it was going to be time to set the sleeve into the blouse itself and then to attach the cuffs to the end of the sleeves. So I decided to first just go ahead and get the sleeve into the blouse. As you can see here, I have the right sides of the blouse and the sleeve together, and then I'm working from the inside to pin the sleeve. I then went ahead and sewed it down with my sewing machine, using the wonderful arm of my sewing machine to just kind of like act as the arm and stick it in there, and then sewed all the way around. I then attached the cuff. I used the cuff kind of as a sandwich. I went ahead and I ironed the raw sides of the cuff into itself to hide them, and then stuffed the end of the sleeve into the pita pocket of the cuff, if you will, and then stitch that down. I always like to top stitch on cuffs like this because you want to make sure the top of the cuff looks good. I also had another sewing snack during this sewing session. My husband made me lava cake, which is amazing. Was so good. He doesn't like chocolate, folks, and he makes me so many good chocolate treats. I can trust him around the chocolate. I know he's not going to eat any of it. It's all for me. Next up was to add the buttonholes. My machine, I think, has actually gotten better about buttonholes, or maybe I just have as well. I marked where the buttonholes needed to go on the back of the blouse and then stitched the buttonholes down. I then took forever sewing on the buttons to the back and the cuff of the blouse, and I also did this while watching SEC football. Go Dogs. We are undefeated so far, and hopefully will be. Knock on wood. All right, so let's see the inspiration and then the final review of my 1940s blouse. I think it looks so much like Molly's. I am very excited to see how it looks with the jumper. That video will be coming out next. I would love to give a huge thank you to my Patreon subscribers. Thank you so much for being part of the Historical Belle Society. It has been so amazing to have so many of you join the Patreon. I do not know how to express my gratitude other than saying thank you so much. If you would like to become part of the Historical Belle Society, the link to join is down in the description box. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I can't wait to show you part 2 of Molly Learns a Lesson outfit next.